What is universal design and why is it important for the disability community?
Against a dark blue backdrop and surrounded by the lines of a camera viewfinder, white letters come into focus. Under the letters is the same text written in Braille. Juan Alcazar.
Hey everybody, if this is your first time on this channel, then hey, my name is Juan. I'm a legally blind filmmaker / content creator. And I wanted to talk about the topic of universal design. Now, if you don't know, universal design is basically making a product or even a physical location as accessible to the disability community, to as many people as possible actually. So think of it as creating a product from the ground up with accessibility in mind. A few examples of this would be braille in elevators or ramps in buildings that lead to doors for wheelchair users, or closed captions for TV shows and movies. Examples online would be dark mode for a website or an app, or even large font or text for websites. And for someone like myself who's blind, I'm a screen reader user, and the screen reader is a piece of software that reads back everything that's text on your screen on your phone or your computer. Audio description, which is an additional audio track in TV shows and movies which describe the visuals for me, or even the aforementioned braille, which isn't just for elevators but for many products as well. Now the good news is that accessibility is being talked about more and more, and I'm glad that that's happening because more companies are more conscious of making their products accessible to the disability community. But at the same time though, there's still a long way to go to make everything accessible. Another example would be alt text and pictures, and alt text is an image description describing an image that's posted on social media. Unfortunately, most people don't really post alt text in their pictures, so I really don't know what is in there. But a good example of an organization that actually does this very well is NASA. They describe their images very well, and you know what? I'm an astronomy and astrophysics nerd, so yeah, I love it. But unfortunately, for every NASA, there's a handful or perhaps even more companies or individuals or organizations that don't make their products accessible. The other thing is that a product or a website or anything might be very accessible to me, but it might not be accessible to someone with a different disability. And it's unfortunate because, you know what, the disability community is large, and when you make a product accessible, word can travel fast. And not only that, but you basically have gathered a very loyal fan base. It's unfortunate to say this, but some people don't really care about this kind of stuff unless it's happening to them directly or someone that they know is being affected by this as well. And I'm not saying this to be mean or anything like that. It's just that, you know, for a lot of people, it's something that really doesn't come to mind. So for a lot of people, accessibility isn't even something that is a part of their everyday life. Whereas compared to someone like me, it affects my everyday life. I do say this a lot of times, but disability is the biggest minority group in the world, and anyone can join at any time, whether it's by birth, accident / injury, or by age. And even if you're recovering from an injury, if you're going through some sort of rehabilitation, you're likely going to be using a feature too that is an accessibility feature that the disability community uses on a daily basis. But not only that, you can be completely able-bodied, and some of these universal design features are actually applicable to you as well. Think of how a wheelchair user would cross the street and then how they would get onto the sidewalk. That area where they would get onto the sidewalk, that's not just for wheelchair users. That can be for people riding bicycles, skateboards, people who are using baby strollers or shopping carts. Closed captions aren't just for the deaf and hard of hearing. If you're watching a TV show and it's late at night and you don't want to wake anybody up, you can turn on the closed captions and still enjoy the TV show or the movie. Or with audio description. It's for the blind, but at the same time, if you're doing stuff around the house or even driving and you still want to check out your favorite TV show or movie, turn on audio description, you'll be able to enjoy it kind of like an audiobook. And those are just some examples that I can think of off the top of my head. But yeah, universal design is something that can definitely be applicable to even able-bodied folks. But like I mentioned before, there's still many products that are not accessible to me. I download an app and it might not be able to be read by my screen reader. Or I might go on a website and my screen reader might not work well with it, or even at all. I might be excited about watching a movie, but then realize there's no audio description. Or I might want to play a video game, and next thing you know, it's not accessible to me. I really think more companies should really consider having accessibility from the beginning stages, because then it would be a lot easier to implement it. I'm not saying it's impossible to add accessibility later on, because it's definitely doable, but I'm just thinking that it likely could cost more. So put it this way, imagine if you're cooking something and the product turns out to be very salty, and now you're trying to cut down on the salt. You might add a few things, but good luck trying to make it less salty. But if it was planned from the beginning to not make something that salty, then it's a lot more manageable. So I'm hoping that more companies are able to keep that in mind with their products. And universal design would also really help in employment, because that's another area where the disability community is heavily affected. And I think implementing universal design would definitely help the unemployment problem for disabled folks. And not just in the workplace, but just for other things like entertainment. We want to be able to watch that movie, read that book, play that video game. We want those things accessible to us as well. We want to be able to enjoy everything and do as many things as possible that able-bodied folks are able to do. And this heavily touches on the social model of disability, which is a whole topic unto itself. But really quick, there's two models of disability. One is the medical model and the social model. The medical model focuses on basically trying to, quote, cure a disability, whereas the social model tries to focus on making as much of the world as accessible to that person as possible. And I'm not saying that someone shouldn't be looking for a cure if it's possible to do that. I mean, I think that's great. But there's some folks, like myself, who cannot be cured. And I think if we're left behind or not even paid attention to, that's not really fair to anybody. And this is why making something as accessible as possible is great for those of us who are in that position. Now, those are just some of my thoughts on universal design. I know I didn't go too much into detail, but I just wanted to give you my general thoughts about it. So if you're disabled yourself, why is universal design so important, and what is it that drives you up the wall as far as inaccessibility goes? Leave it in the comments, and it'd be interesting because, like I said, there's so many disabilities, there's so many ways that inaccessibility can affect someone. Like I said, something can be totally accessible for me, but totally inaccessible for somebody else. So yeah, those are my thoughts, and I'll see you folks in the next video, and I'll talk to you later. Take care.